32 seconds, one comment turned a casual interview into television chaos. The studio lights were hot that morning. Whoopi Goldberg sat at the table with her co-hosts, ready for another day of conversation and debate. The guest was supposed to be an easy interview, a chance to talk about charity work and upcoming projects. Nobody expected what was about to unfold. Prince Harry walked onto the stage with a smile. The audience clapped. He waved and took his seat across from Whoopi. Everything seemed normal at first. The cameras rolled. The interview began. "Welcome, welcome," Whoopi said warmly. "We're so glad to have you here today." "Thank you for having me," Harry replied, settling into his chair. Whoopi started with simple questions. She asked about his recent travels, about the charities he supported, about life in California. Harry answered each question, but there was something in his tone. Something sharp. Something that suggested he would rather be anywhere else. "So, tell us about the foundation you're working with," Whoopi continued, keeping her voice friendly and open. Harry sighed. Actually sighed. On camera. "Well, it's quite complex. I'm not sure the audience here would fully understand the scope of what we're trying to accomplish." The co-hosts exchanged glances. Whoopi's smile tightened just slightly, but she pressed on. "Try us. We're pretty smart people." "I'm sure you are," Harry said, but the way he said it made it sound like he meant the opposite. "It's just that this work requires a certain level of, how do I put this, sophistication." One of the co-hosts shifted in her seat. The audience had gone quiet. You could feel the tension building, like a storm about to break. Whoopi leaned forward. "Sophistication. I see. Well, why don't you break it down for us unsophisticated folks?" Harry missed the warning in her voice entirely. "Look, no offense, but daytime television isn't exactly known for deep intellectual discourse, is it?" The audience gasped. Actually gasped. Whoopi's co-hosts looked shocked, but Whoopi herself stayed calm. Deadly calm. "No offense," Whoopi repeated slowly. "You just insulted everyone in this room, everyone watching at home, and everyone who works on this show. But no offense." "I'm simply being honest," Harry said, crossing his arms. "People watch shows like this for entertainment, not for real information." "Shows like this," Whoopi said. "You mean the show you agreed to come on? The show you're sitting on right now?" Harry waved his hand dismissively. "I'm here because my publicist said I should be. Something about reaching Middle America." He said Middle America like it was a disease. The co-hosts were silent now. They knew Whoopi well enough to recognize the look on her face. She was giving Harry rope. Lots of rope. And he was tying it into a noose all by himself. "Middle America," Whoopi said. "The people who buy your books. The people who watch your documentaries. The people who donate to your charities." "I suppose," Harry said, "though I wish they'd be more discerning about their media consumption." That was it. That was the moment. You could see it in Whoopi's eyes. She was done. "Let me ask you something," Whoopi said, her voice still controlled, but with steel underneath. "Do you think you're better than the people watching this show?" Harry laughed. He actually laughed. "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to," Whoopi shot back. "You've been saying it with every word out of your mouth since you sat down." "Now hold on," Harry said, uncrossing his arms and sitting up straighter. "I don't appreciate your tone." "My tone?" Whoopi's eyebrows went up. "My tone? You come on my show, insult my audience, insult my co-hosts, insult the entire concept of what we do here, and you're worried about my tone?" "I'm simply pointing out that there are levels to public discourse," Harry said. "Some platforms are more serious than others." "Serious," Whoopi repeated. "You want to talk about serious. Let's talk about serious. You're a grown man who has spent years complaining about privacy while doing interview after interview. You've written books about your family, done documentaries about your family, gone on podcasts about your family. And now you're sitting here telling me and my audience that we're not sophisticated enough for you? Harry's face was turning red. That's not what I said. Then what are you saying? Whoopi demanded. Use your words. Be clear. Help us simple daytime television people understand. I'm saying that the level of conversation here is beneath what I'm trying to accomplish, Harry said, his voice rising. The audience made noise at that, boos mixed with shocked sounds. Whoopi held up her hand for quiet. Beneath you, she said. We're beneath you. I didn't use those exact words, Harry protested. You don't need to, Whoopi said. It's dripping from every sentence. You know what I think? I think you've forgotten something important. I think you've forgotten that respect isn't something you're owed just because of who your grandmother was. Harry stood up suddenly. Don't you dare bring my family into this. You bring your family into everything, Whoopi said, standing up to match him. That's literally your entire brand. But the second someone pushes back, the second someone doesn't bow and scrape, you can't handle it. I don't have to sit here and take this, Harry said. You're absolutely right, Whoopi agreed. You don't. There's the door. The studio went silent. Everyone was staring. The cameras were rolling. This was live television, and nobody knew what would happen next. Harry looked around, as if expecting someone to defend him. The co-hosts just stared. The audience was completely quiet. Even the crew had stopped moving. Are you seriously asking me to leave? Harry asked, his voice incredulous. I'm not asking, Whoopi said calmly. You said you don't have to sit here. I'm agreeing with you. You can leave. This is outrageous, Harry sputtered. Do you know who I am? I know exactly who you are, Whoopi said. You're someone who thinks a title makes you special. You're someone who forgets that kindness and respect go both ways. You're someone who came on my show and treated everyone here like we're lucky to breathe the same air as you. I have never been so insulted in my life, Harry said. Really? Whoopi shot back. Because you've been insulting everyone here for the past 10 minutes. But I guess it only counts when it happens to you. Harry grabbed his microphone and yanked it off. The sound guy winced as the wire pulled. I'm leaving. Good, Whoopi said. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. But Harry wasn't done. He turned back, his face flushed with anger. You're going to regret this. Do you understand what kind of influence I have? Whoopi laughed. Actually laughed. Influence? Honey, I've been doing this for decades. I've interviewed presidents. I've won awards you can't even pronounce. Your influence doesn't scare me. We'll see about that, Harry said. Yes, we will, Whoopi replied. Now are you leaving, or are you going to keep threatening me on live television? Harry pointed at her. You're making a huge mistake. The only mistake I made was booking you in the first place. Whoopi said, Now go. Harry looked at the co-hosts again. None of them said a word. He looked at the audience. They were all staring at him with expressions ranging from shock to disgust. He looked at the cameras, and for a moment, you could see him realize what he had done. How this looked, how this would play. But instead of apologizing, instead of trying to salvage the situation, he doubled down. This is exactly why I left, he said. This kind of treatment, this disrespect. Disrespect? Whoopi's voice went up. You walked in here with disrespect. You sat down with disrespect. You talked to us with disrespect. And now you want to play the victim. I'm not playing anything, Harry said. You're playing yourself, Whoopi said. And everyone watching can see it. Harry turned and started walking off the stage. But then he stopped. Turned around again. This was his final mistake. You know what your problem is? He said to Whoopi. Please, Whoopi said, crossing her arms. Enlighten me. Your problem is that you can't handle someone who doesn't need you. Someone who's actually important. The audience erupted. Boos filled the studio. Whoopi's co-hosts looked horrified, but Whoopi just smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Actually important, she repeated. You mean like someone who's done more than be born into the right family? Someone who's built a career on talent instead of bloodline? Someone who's earned respect instead of demanding it? Harry's mouth opened and closed. He had no response. That's what I thought, Whoopi said. Now get off my stage. Gladly, Harry said. I wouldn't want to waste any more time with someone so... He paused, searching for a word. So what? Whoopi challenged. Go ahead. Say it. Tell everyone what you really think. Harry seemed to realize he was cornered. Anything he said now would only make things worse. He turned and walked toward the exit, but Whoopi wasn't finished. And Harry, she called out. He stopped, but didn't turn around. Next time you go on a talk show, try remembering that the host isn't there to worship you. They're there to have a conversation. And conversation requires respect. Both ways. Harry walked off without responding. The door closed behind him. For a moment, nobody in the studio moved. The silence was deafening. Then Whoopi turned to the camera. Well, she said, that happened. The audience exploded into applause. They stood up. They cheered. Whoopi's co-hosts were clapping too, shaking, their heads in disbelief. Whoopi sat back down and looked at the camera. We need to go to commercial, she said, because I need a minute to process what just happened. One of the co-hosts leaned over. Are you okay? I'm fine, Whoopi said, but we're going to talk about this when we come back. The show cut to commercial, but in those few seconds before the feed switched, you could see Whoopi's face. She wasn't angry anymore. She looked tired, disappointed, like she had expected better and been let down. When they came back from commercial, Whoopi addressed the audience directly. Okay, she said, let's talk about what just happened here. The co-hosts nodded. The audience was leaning forward, eager to hear what she would say. I want to be clear about something, Whoopi began. I don't enjoy conflict. I don't enjoy kicking people off the show. But I also don't tolerate disrespect. Not to me, not to my co-hosts, and definitely not to our audience. The audience applauded. When you come on this show, you're a guest in our house, Whoopi continued. And in our house, we treat people with respect. We expect the same in return. That's not too much to ask. One of the co-hosts spoke up. What got me was the entitlement, like he was doing us a favor by being here. Exactly, Whoopi said. And look, I understand that he comes from a different world. I understand that he's dealt with a lot, but that doesn't give anyone the right to look down on other people. Another co-host chimed in. The way he talked about the audience, like they're not smart enough to understand his work. That was the worst part, Whoopi agreed. Our audience is smart. Our audience is engaged. Our audience deserves respect. And if you can't give them that, you don't belong on this stage. The audience cheered again. I've been in this business a long time, Whoopi said. I've interviewed all kinds of people. Rich people, poor people, famous people, regular people. And you know what I've learned? Respect has nothing to do with status. Some of the kindest people I've met have nothing. Some of the rudest people I've met have everything. She paused, letting that sink in. What happened today was a teaching moment, she continued. Not for me, not for us, but hopefully for him. Because at some point, he's going to have to realize that being born into privilege doesn't make you better than anyone else. It just makes you luckier. The co-hosts nodded. The audience was completely focused on every word. I hope he learns from this, Whoopi said. I really do. Because the world doesn't need more entitled people. The world needs more humble people. More kind people. More people who understand that we're all human beings, deserving of basic respect. She looked directly at the camera. And to everyone watching at home, I want you to know something. You matter. Your intelligence matters. Your opinions matter. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Not a Prince, not a president, not anyone. The audience gave her a standing ovation. It lasted for nearly a minute. Whoopi sat there, taking it in, a small smile on her face. When the applause finally died down, she said, "All right, we've got a show to do. Let's bring out our next guest." The show went on. They talked about other topics. They laughed. They had debates. But the energy was different now. There was a sense of solidarity in the room. Everyone had witnessed something together. Everyone had seen what happens when respect isn't given, and someone finally demands it. Behind the scenes, the staff was buzzing. Nobody could believe what had just happened. Live television was unpredictable, but this was something else entirely. This was going to be talked about for years. The producers were already getting calls. News outlets wanted comments. Social media was exploding. Everyone wanted to know what had happened, what would happen next, what this all meant. But in the studio, Whoopi just kept going. She did her job. She talked to her guests. She engaged with her co-hosts. She proved exactly why she had been doing this for so long. Nothing rattled her. Nothing threw her off her game. When the show finally ended and the cameras stopped rolling, Whoopi stood up and stretched. Her co-hosts gathered around her. "That was intense," one of them said. "It was necessary," Whoopi replied. "Sometimes you have to stand up for yourself and your audience. Otherwise, people will walk all over you." They talked for a few more minutes, processing what had happened. Then Whoopi went to her dressing room. She sat down in front of the mirror and looked at herself. She had done the right thing. She knew that. But it still felt heavy. She didn't enjoy confrontation. She didn't enjoy making people leave. But she also knew her worth. She knew the worth of her show, her co-hosts, and her audience. There was a knock on the door. One of the producers came in. "You okay?" the producer asked. "I'm fine," Whoopi said. "How's it looking out there?" "Chaos," the producer said honestly. "But good chaos. People are supporting you. They're saying you did the right thing." Whoopi nodded. "Good." "Some people are saying you were too harsh," the producer added. "Some people always will," Whoopi said. "That's okay. They're entitled to their opinion." The producer hesitated. "Do you regret it?" Whoopi thought about that for a moment. "No," she said finally. "I don't. He needed to hear it. And our audience needed to see that we value them. That we won't let anyone disrespect them." "Well, for what it's worth," the producer said, "I think you handled it perfectly." Whoopi smiled. "Thanks." Back in the studio, the crew was breaking down the set. They were all talking about what had happened. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had a reaction. "Did you see his face when she told him to leave?" one crew member said. "I thought he was going to have a heart." "Attack," another replied. "He couldn't believe someone was standing up to him," a third added. "You could see it in his eyes." They laughed, but it was uncomfortable laughter. They had all witnessed something awkward and tense and real. Television wasn't supposed to be this real. In homes across the country, people were calling their friends. They were posting online. They were talking about what they had just witnessed. The clips were already spreading. The moment was already becoming legendary. Some people defended Harry. They said Whoopi was too aggressive, too confrontational, too quick to kick him off. They said she should have been more understanding of his perspective. But far more people defended Whoopi. They said she was right to demand respect. They said Harry had it coming. They said it was about time someone told him that being royal doesn't mean being better than everyone else. The debate raged online and in living rooms and at water coolers. Everyone had an opinion about what had happened and what it meant. But back in the studio, Whoopi was already thinking about tomorrow's show. She had guests to prep for, topics to research, work to do, because that's what professionals do. They handle the crisis, they stand their ground, and then they move forward. No dwelling, no second guessing, just forward motion. Her co-hosts came to say goodbye before leaving for the day. "See you tomorrow," one of them said. "Same time, same place." Whoopi replied with a smile. "Think we'll top today's show?" another asked jokingly. "God, I hope not," Whoopi said, and they all laughed. They left, and Whoopi gathered her things. She looked around the empty studio one more time. The lights were dimming. The audience was long gone. It was just her and the memories of what had happened. She thought about Harry, briefly. Wondered if he would learn anything from this. Wondered if he would continue to feel entitled and superior, or if maybe, just maybe, this would be a wake-up call. But that wasn't her problem anymore. She had done what she needed to do. She had stood her ground. She had defended her audience. The rest was up to him. Whoopi walked out of the studio and into the cool evening air. Tomorrow there would be more interviews, more topics, more moments. But today she had shown exactly what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. She got in her car and drove home, already thinking about tomorrow's show. Because that's what you do. You stand up for yourself, you handle your business, and you keep moving forward. The world keeps turning. The show goes on. And respect, real respect, is something you earn through how you treat people, not through who your ancestors were. That was the lesson of the day. That was what people would remember. Not the yelling, not the drama, but the simple truth that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. And if you can't do that, if you can't treat people well, regardless of their status or platform or position, then you don't deserve a seat at the table. That's what Whoopi had proven today. That's what the audience had witnessed. That's what would be talked about and debated and analyzed for weeks to come. One moment, 32 seconds that changed everything. One comment that revealed someone's true character. One host who refused to back down. That's television,